You know things are serious when we're sitting in front of the couch, but not holding onto the camera,
and we're talking.
and we're talking
like to you.
To you. We're going to talk about something that we've been trying to talk about for years now. That we've been trying to record.
Well, in the year that we've been vlogging.
Yeah, and we actually thought about recording something before that too.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really until we got into vlogging that we kind of were like, we really need to talk about what happened, and we really kind of need to get it out of our own systems.
But also to help
and
somebody.
Yeah, and maybe it'll help someone else.
To know that they're not alone in
or
their
not crazy,
feelings or how you are dealing with this or whatever.
So about 4 years ago, August or so, 4 years ago, we all got kind of sick. We all got hit by the same bug. It took us down for longer than it normally would, and we struggled to get better from it. And at first, it felt like we got to a certain point that we were feeling better, but we still felt like stuffed up, or I still had a cough that would just kind of flare up, or Summer would have a hard time breathing.
And we thought it was allergies.
And that's what we all just assumed that it was just allergies.
Because I didn't get allergies until I was pregnant with Ireland at all.
And we lived around like trees and bushes and that kind of stuff right out our front door. So it was just something that we took for granted, that we thought allergies were real bad this year or whatever.
They were able to shake it off a little bit better. I was, again, trying to shake it, and I couldn't. I had a hard time breathing. I was constantly stuffed up. And the way that I can explain the breathing is that pretend that you're yawning. You can't get over the crest of the yawn. And, people yawn probably when you say yawn. And so leave a comment below if you did yawn. We have to have some humor in talking about this, because if we don't, we will go crazy. He will get very angry. My anxiety flares up, and we just get angry about the whole situation because it affected 5 of us. Yes, I said 5. You only know about 4 of us. However, we did have another cat named Ollie, and he was Poppy's big brother. Not really, but we called him that. And he's the only one that didn't make it out alive. And it is that serious. So the fact that I wasn't getting better, like at all, like I was like not progressing, I was regressing the whole time. Like I wasn't ever going forward. It wasn't even a situation of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It was just constant bad, 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 bad. Whereas they were doing the 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Like they would get better, and they, meaning Jesse and Ireland. And I just wasn't getting better, and we didn't know why. So just, August is prime time for grass still, and it's gearing up for the fall, where you're going to have the wet, and it's also hurricane season. So there's constant rain, which produces mold outside. So that's all we thought it was. Ollie was showing signs of being sick too, and we didn't know why. He was not eating properly. He was losing weight. And we were like, oh my gosh, his thyroid, his kidneys, his whatever. So we just kept trying to make him better, and it wasn't working. We didn't know at the time, but we ended up having to put him to sleep because they did all this lab work, and he was not showing anything. But let me say, they do the lab work, and mold doesn't show until it's at a toxicity level of stage 4.
And
Okay?
if it's already that high in your system, you're already out of luck.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are stages. There's 4 stages. And that's why I say he was at stage 4. And we'll explain more of that later. But we lost him without knowing. We had no idea. The vet could not find the reason. And so we had to put him to sleep after we had him for 4.5 years. And Poppy was getting sick. She was coughing and
like, you know how cats get, like, sometimes they'll have a hairball.
Yeah,
and they'll kind of hunch down and they'll start doing it. Well, she does that now. Still, but it's not. There's no hairball. It's just she has asthma now.
She has asthma.
And she was doing that in the apartment. I mean, and
we didn't know.
We thought she was just having a hairball problem.
Yeah.
So we put her on
the food that had the hairball control.
Yeah.
We had drops. We had the drops for Ollie. All this stuff. Yeah. So anyway, back to us. There was a 5th member, but
I was cleaning up the bedroom one day, and I moved our clothes hamper out just to kind of clean behind it to make sure there weren't any socks or anything behind it. So I just moved it, and I noticed there was this. At first, I thought it was just dirt on the wall, but so I kind of just scrubbed at it, just with my hand, and it didn't come off. And I was like, "Oh, that's weird." So I went and got like some hot water or like 501 or whatever the glass cleaner was, and kind of sprayed it on the wall, and it came off. And I was like, "Oh, okay, no problem." Put the clothes hamper back, didn't think about it for a couple weeks, and then I was cleaning again.
So we're now until September.
Yeah, we're into September. I think it was the first week of September. Yeah, it was about the first week of September. I went back and did the same thing, moved the hamper like I did before, like I've done before, and never noticed anything. Then I moved the hamper, and that mark was now up further on the wall.
Right, and it was on the baseboard, okay?
When it first started.
And we'll show you a picture.
And I looked at this, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird." So I checked the hamper to make sure there wasn't anything in there. Yeah. There wasn't anything weird in the hamper. There wasn't anything on the back of the hamper.
No mildew, nothing like that.
And so I was like, okay, so it's not the hamper, so what's going on? So I did some research on the internet, and I found out it was just mold. So I was like, okay, that's weird. There's mold on the inside of the wall.
Right, and we'll preface this by saying we're not the type that will leave wet clothes.
No.
In the hamper, because I'm very anal about that for that exact reason.
So I looked up, and the first thing I found out about mold is you never clean it with bleach, because it doesn't even kill the mold. It just aspirates it. It just makes it angry. It puts it into the air. It just spreads it around. Tea tree oil, however, mixed with like hot but not boiling water, and Blue Dawn soap, like dish soap. Those things together kills the mold.
You wouldn't think it.
Like down to like the molecular level, this stuff does some damage. So I put a mask on, because it says anytime you're cleaning up mold or mildew, put a mask on, because it can get into the air and stuff like that. Wear gloves, So I did it. I cleaned it up. It went away, and I was like, "Hey, cool, no problem." I let the landlord know. Hey, I found some mold in the bedroom. Just to let you know, I cleaned it like like I was told to clean it, and
the strange thing, I'm gonna pose this as a strange Poppy, really.
She's like hair tie.
I'm gonna pose this as the first strange mark. He didn't seem concerned that it was there, and yes, I'm saying that in that way. I find that strange, but you'll understand why later. He was not concerned. He was like, "Oh, just clean it up. Use some bleach." Actually said that. Use some bleach.
Yeah, make sure you use bleach to clean it up. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, that's not how you clean this stuff. I already know that."
So you're getting a story built already, okay? So then come the first part of November.
Well, not even that far.
Oh, the end of October.
Yeah.
I'm still sick, but I'm progressively worse. The only time that I'm really okay is Poppy's. The only time that I'm okay is when I'm out of the house. And it takes a little while, but I'm okay. And if it was cool and cold, that helped too. But anybody who has any type of lung problems knows that the cool air helps because it brings down the inflammation. So I'm having problems, and I'm not getting better. I go to 2 doctors. They tell me, oh, it's just allergies. You're fine. And I'm like, no, not fine. Not fine. And it ended up that I was on the floor of our living room with Jessie across from me trying to breathe. And honestly, I don't know if Jessie can input it because of copyright issues, but you can look it up on Google and type in whooping cough sounds, and that's what it sounds like. It sounds like you're gasping for air. You're like, like that. And that's how I was that one last night of the last week in October. And I was just like, this is not okay. I'm not just having allergies. You don't gasp for air from allergies. So the next morning, and mind you, I had been sleeping on the couch for the last 2 months because I could not sleep in our bedroom. We don't know why. However, at this time we didn't know why. So I ended up calling my doctor the next morning, and they heard me gasping on the phone, and he was like, I'm ordering a chest CT or an x-ray. Stat. CTs come later, trust me. But I'm ordering it stat. You go there right now. They're going to take you in. And they did. As soon as I got there, I did the x-ray and came back within like 10 minutes, which is not, always likely because you have to wait forever. But I came back and my left lung was half full. I had pneumonia. And so I had been building and building and building on pneumonia. And your lungs are not just this, sleek little area on both sides like you see in pictures. There's actual pockets inside of your lungs, and the pockets were full and you could see fluid. And it makes me like even now, like it's hard to think about it because of going through that. And so they put me on the Z-Pack because I had pneumonia. Didn't respond to it. I just tried amoxicillin. Didn't respond to it. Finally, a few months after that, because I was still having problems, they finally found the drug that worked. And I'll get to that later. But nothing worked. Nose spray, all this stuff. It didn't work. But that was also because we were still in a house that was infected and we didn't know it. So while I was sick, getting over my Z-Pack that didn't work, Jessie and I one night, we would send Ireland away a lot because I didn't want her to see me like that. It seemed to help when we would send her away. I don't know what we were thinking, but we would just send her away to my parents or whatever. And it wasn't like send her away. She would go and stay the night for the night or whatever. But we were in her room playing with her Legos. Literally building. He built a rock concert.
Yeah, I built a rock stage, and it was just so random. One night we went in there to start cleaning up, and then we're like, "Hey, Legos!"
And then while we were sitting in there, I was getting bad again, and I was like, the best way that you can explain how you feel from mold, and the pulmonologist, who is a lung doctor, will exactly tell you the same thing. You feel like you have the flu. And it's not just, you work up to the flu or whatever. Jessie says all the time, it's like it hits you. Yeah. And you all of a sudden just get drained. Your body physically aches. You're just oh. You have the body aches, all that kind of stuff. But like she said, you're going to be an automatic sensor for mold. Because if you are allergic to mold, that is what happens to you. And so I just kept telling Jessie, I'm not feeling good. I don't feel good, but I'm so tired of laying around. And so I got up, and he was picking up the Legos, and I got up, and I went over to Ireland's bed because she had stuffed animals on her bed, and her bed was against the wall, like not like smushed against the wall, but you know how your bed is against the wall, and her stuffed animals were falling, you know, in the crack between the wall and the bed and the mattress. So I went over there to pull them out. I was pulling the
Stuffed animals.
the stuffed animals out of the side of the mattress, and I pulled the bed out a little bit to just, you know, get some more leverage. And I mean, she had books that had fallen down and all that kind of stuff. And I lost my mind because at the left part of her headboard, crawling up the wall, was mold.
Now we're not talking like
No.
simple everyday stuff.
No.
We're talking about like a heavy black, dark,
Like,
like
can you see the shade of this?
dark.
Dark. Black mold.
And I, looking at that, I was completely kind of dumbfounded. We moved the bed away from, like, we pulled the bed, like, we moved all kinds of stuff that night. And it actually was not just going up the corner of her room, but
across the bottom of the baseboard under the window.
Up
It had
on
attached itself to her bed.
and her curtains.
And again, I can't stress enough that if the mold is there, it doesn't mean you're dirty or nasty or whatever.
It just means there's a buildup of moisture somewhere.
Yeah, because that's what the mold feeds off of.
And so,
And no, I had pulled her bed out multiple times over the month, and it was not there. Because I would pull her bed out to get the books and the stuffed animals and all that stuff. It wasn't there.
So I mean, we're like, holy crap, what's going on?
And I start freaking out because I start piecing together all
There's
of the
mold.
problems.
There's mold in the house.
And Ollie would always go under her bed. He liked to go under there. So I'm just like, oh my God, Ollie. Oh my God, he was right there with it. Not only was it going through our apartment and through the HVAC system and all of that, oh my God, he was under the bed near it. So I started piecing the together. And then I started going, I wonder if this is why I'm sick. I wonder if this is why Ireland has had croup. Croup. That is a baby issue with babies getting junk in their chest and their bronchial areas, okay? Ireland was 7.5 years old. Okay? And she was still getting croup at least twice a year. So it was just like this wild thing where we started piecing everything. And his first reaction was, and this was the week before Thanksgiving. Well, no, it wasn't even the week before. It was like a couple of days before Thanksgiving because her birthday had ended up falling on Thanksgiving that year. Mm-hmm. And it was like the 23rd. Okay? His first reaction is, pack your bags, you're going to your mother's house. We're not staying here. And I said, I'm not going without you. And he's like, I'm coming, but you're going there as soon as possible. So literally, I called my mom that morning and she's like, oh my God. And she was like, I want to see what it is. And yes, of course, come here. So we packed our bags 2 days before Thanksgiving and never went back. Well, at least I never went back.
Before we left, I did the same thing I did in our bedroom.
We didn't clean her bedroom. We didn't clean the wall in her bedroom. We started taking pictures because it wasn't just there. We thought that like the laundry room was in this like closeted area that had no ventilation. Okay?
And to the point to where if we ran the dryer, we had to keep, like, because there were doors, like,
accordion doors.
Accordion closet doors. And we had to keep those open anytime we ran the things because
it would set off the fire alarm.
The dryer would set off the fire alarm. And we really kind of should have thought about something then.
Right.
But hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah.
So I took pictures, and
we took pictures in Ireland's room, in the laundry room, in our bedroom.
Our bedroom, which had now started to show up again. The same spot that I'd cleaned off.
And then it showed up in another corner.
And it was showing up in a
and then
separate corner.
Our back half bathroom, because the guy's hot water heater upstairs had busted and nobody told us. So it had leaked all through that bathroom.
We also, there was a hurricane that had come through.
Right.
And even though we were on the second floor,
it somehow leaked.
It was coming through the vent in our bathroom. Not through the vent, but around the vent. It was raining outside and raining in our back bathroom.
Okay, but what does that tell you? So, the entire east side of the apartment was infected. Like, even the full bath was infected and we didn't know. And we know this for a fact because in January of the next year, which was 2015, my mother, hired a environmentalist to come.
We'll get there.
No, I'm just saying. So we know for a fact because an environmentalist came and tested everything.
So after the pictures were taken and after we moved out of the apartment, I called my landlord and said, there's a major mold problem in our apartment. My wife is sick. I'm sick. My daughter's sick. And before we can move back in, I would really kind of like it cleaned up. And
not just cleaned up, but
like
remediated. Like,
yeah, I need some sort of
mold remediation.
Mold, yeah. And he was like, "Oh, okay, no problem. I'll go in and clean it up, and I'll get it cleaned up." And
strike two. He was so.
Because I took.
Oh, no problem.
He's like, "Oh, wow, that's you really should move your beds out and take a look at that stuff." And we're like, "Dude, we do it all the time." We have
by the way, you need to wipe your walls down once a month with a bleach solution.
And he's like, I've handled this stuff before.
Hold up.
You just take some bleach.
Who wipes their walls down once a month?
With bleach?
Me? No.
And I'm like, no, you can't use bleach on mold. It just aspirates it. He's like, oh no, I've done it all the time. We've had these kind of problems before.
Strike three.
And we've just, I'll clean it up. Don't worry.
They've had these problems before.
And I'm like, I understand it's Thanksgiving week. I don't expect you to go out and be able to do anything this week. I completely understand it. But I really want it taken care of.
And it needs to be done correctly.
And it needs to be done. And it needs to be done correctly. And I no cutting corners or anything like that. And I was still paying rent. Now, as a renter, you have, just in case if you're renting a house and something goes wrong and you have to move out, you don't pay rent. You pay it into an escrow. I didn't know that. I think everybody watching this video who is renting, anybody who watches any of our videos or anybody who rents,
you need to know that.
Needs to know you have the right to not have to pay your landlord.
It goes into an escrow account until it's fixed.
And you're still paying rent, but you're paying it into a thing that they can't get to until whatever's fixed.
Right.
We didn't know that, so I was still paying rent even though we weren't living there. And the first week of December, he gives me a call and goes, I went in and, I cleaned up everything and I want you to know we did a really good job. But
I want to watch it over the next 30 days.
No, he didn't even... No. I said that. I said I wanted to watch it.
Oh.
He never came and he never said he wanted to watch it. He said to keep an eye on it. And I was like, well, okay, that's great. We're not moving back in until I know the stuff's not coming back. And he was like, okay, no problem. So what I would do is every day after work, before driving to Summer's parents' house, I would drive down to the apartment, go into the apartment, take a look at it, and then leave. And then go back and
6 days later, after he cleaned it, it showed back up.
It showed back up under the windowsill in Ireland's bedroom. I'm having a hard time breathing now.
Because you're thinking about it.
And I called him back and I said, I appreciate the cleaning that you did, however, it's coming back underneath the windowsill.
7 days later.
Already. And he's like, oh wow, that can't be right. Let me come out and take a look at it. I took pictures.
Yeah, before he left, he took pictures.
I took pictures.
Why? We didn't trust him.
I said, yeah. When this started, and I never had a problem with him before. I was always very cordial. I let him know about things that I was noticing in the neighborhood, those kinds of things. Never had a problem with it, but when he started kind of skirting around with the problem, I wanted every kind of proof that said, hey, this is where it's at. So, it's now second week of December, and he gives me a call and goes, I went in and I didn't see anything. So I don't know where you're talking about. And I'm like, it's around the windowsill, like underneath the windowsill. And not on the windowsill,
right?
But underneath the windowsill.
Right. And it's also in the laundry room.
They hadn't cleaned any of the laundry room stuff up. And his response was, oh, that wasn't mold in the laundry room. That's just detergent. You must have like splashed detergent on the wall. Okay. I'm like, no. The detergent we use isn't red because this was like red. It wasn't even dripping.
You pictures. There,
It was red spots on the wall, and I'm like, that's not detergent. He's like, oh, it had to be detergent. We don't use red detergent unless the person before us used red detergent, which means the wall has been like that this whole time. That's BS. That's not even a logical explanation of what is on our walls. Right. So he goes, well, I'll go in and look at the windows. I'll have to go in and take a look at the window. I don't hear from him for a week.
A week passes, and then we get an email that says, take a breather. You need to breathe. I can hear you. A week passes, and then we get an email that says, good news. Okay, literally, that's how it starts. Good news. I called in a mold remediation company. What? But it was a mold, right? Strike 4. Called in a mold remediation company, and they fixed the window. Corner of Ireland's room, the window, the laundry room, the 2 corners of our bedroom, the back bathroom. We didn't know about the front bathroom yet. How many is that? 7 different areas. Good news! We fixed the window. You can move back in before Christmas. Isn't that great? Let me know when you want to set up a time to meet me there, as I have had my handyman go in and check over the last couple days, and it hasn't shown back up. Mind you, okay, you can see where they tried to scrub it off again in Ireland's bedroom in the corner. Again, he calls Jesse at work after Jesse didn't reply. Okay, and mind you, hold on. We would reply normally, okay, within 24 hours. But before Jesse had this meeting with them, again, he wanted to go and see for himself like he had been doing. And mind you, Jesse had been going. That's how we knew they had tried to scrub that area, because he had a picture of it already coming back through. after he had just emailed 24 hours before. Okay? This stuff was aggressive. It was inside the wall. And it wasn't going to be taken care of unless you do the remediation, which means you must remove the drywall that is infected and treat the inside because the mold might be affecting the wood. So if he called in a true mold remediation company, they would have known that. Okay? So.
Now, during this whole time, I'm not taking just taking okay, I'll let him fix it type situation.
No.
I was doing a lot of research.
Yeah.
About what mold remediation, what fixing that kind of stuff,
right.
what
mold can do to
what
us.
can do, the medical side of things, and I'm like, wow, this is going to we may not move back in for a long time. Because and it wasn't like we were I was expecting us to move back in.
Yeah.
We were just going to be out for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And I was still paying rent. This
Yeah.
is not like I was refusing to pay rent or anything. I was still giving him a check every single month. And then when I get this email, I got very it was
agitated.
It was kind of like the last straw.
Because he wasn't taking care of the problem.
He wasn't taking it serious.
No.
So instead of emailing him back, I called him at his office the next day and said, well, who did you go through, just so I know. And
he wouldn't say.
Well, at first he wouldn't say. And I'm like, well, what company did you use, just so I can make a note of it. And
if we have any other problems, to be able to call them.
To be able to call them and go, hey, you guys came in and did this and this.
Oh, no.
And,
I will talk to them.
No, I can talk to them. And I'm like,
strike again.
And that was kind of like the final, something is not right here. So we can't afford a lawyer. So we went to
legal aid.
We went to a legal aid company or organization, and basically it's free legal aid as long as you're not looking for multi-billion dollars of. And we weren't at the time. I called them to go, this is what we're going through. What do I legally have the right to
demand,
to pursue?
Yeah.
Do I have the legal right to
tell him,
put him in front of a judge and say this guy is a slumlord? Right. Or do I have the legal right to go, I'm not paying you
this way or whatever?
Do I have the legal right to go, you need to prove to me that you've brought in this company, or as a renter, what are my legal rights?
Right.
And at first they were very forward about being very helpful, and they're like, we have dealt with this problem before, who is your landlord? And we said his name, and they're like, him again.
Strike again.
My heart dropped because I was like, they have been through this shit. They have been through this issue with him before, and they already know what they're getting into. This is not good. What do we do now? And they're like, okay, so this is what you need to do. You need to take pictures. I'm like, I have pictures. And they're like, great. And you need to make a timeline. Got a timeline. They're like, great. And you need whatever your medical expenses are. And I'm like, well, I'm not really worried about that. I just need to know what I legally can do. And they're like, oh, no, we're,
you need the medical because...
You need the medical because it shows that you have medical problems and... Due to the issue. And we're like, we have that. Great. We can get letters from the doctor saying
we
this
had
is...
an entire file of all of that stuff. No joke. This thick. Okay? Again, it's only December.
And with the holidays, again, the holidays coming up, I knew they weren't going to be able to see us right away. No problem. I have no problem waiting until after the holidays. I understand this time of year is rough. Right. I was totally okay with it. So
they ended up fitting us in, though.
They fit us in, and we went in. We told them our story, and they're like, okay.
Showed them the pictures.
You need to talk to. Well, once he says everything is cleaned up, we need to get a inspector to go in. And they gave us the name of the guy.
Oh my god, I'm starting to get an asthma attack.
and you know, we'll get in contact with him, and he'll go through and make sure everything's all right. And we're like, okay, that's fine. You know, I'm okay with that. I've been taking pictures. I've been going back.
And that we need to also contact this inspector because they needed to know that the landlord was in violation of EPA standards.
Yeah.
Because it is an environmental issue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what what mold is.
So we call this inspector and we set up a time for him to go. Well, this is 2 weeks in January.
Yeah.
Second
but that morning, magically, okay, the date that we had for the inspector to go to the apartment.
Yes.
Magically.
I get the landlord shows up at my work.
Shows up.
First time I've actually seen him face to face in months. Yeah. Shows up at my work and goes.
Great.
So, I understand you guys didn't move in over the holiday. Like, how's everybody doing? Why haven't you moved in? I'm like, because the apartment's not clean yet. And he's like, oh yeah, I had, such and such. I'm like, they're not a mold company. They're not mold remediation. They informed me over the phone the only thing they did to the apartment was
what you told them to do.
What you told them to do was only fix the window. And that's all they did. Is they fixed the window because the window was leaking. And that was from the gentleman who dealt with you directly.
And again, he came to his work.
He came to my work.
His work.
So I was like, when he came in, I had been festering up this like built up rage against this guy for some time. And he shows up in my work and he was like, Jesse, can we talk? And I'm like, we're going outside. And he's like, okay. We went outside.
And also, during this talk outside, multiple people were standing by the door because they knew
everything that was going on.
What was going on, and they also knew what kind of snake this guy was because they were not sure that he was going to try to physically touch him. So they were at the door waiting and watching because they didn't trust him either. So again, another strike. These people know him and his actions. Yeah.
So he goes to me, he says to me, he's like, oh no, such and such company. I'm like, I called this company and I asked to speak to the person who dealt with it because I was the renter of
said apartment.
Of the apartment. I had the right to talk to whoever fixed the thing. He said, no, we didn't do anything with mold. All we did was go in and fix the window that was leaking.
Because that's what we
were told to do. And he was just like, oh no, that's not what happened at all. I'm like, can you give me a receipt or something that says, oh no, I didn't get a receipt for that. You don't need to get a receipt for that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm like, listen, I have been told by legal aid, this is what needs to be done. And the moment I said legal aid, he was like,
got irate.
He started cussing at me, yelling at me, and I'm like, listen, I've been told by legal aid not to move back into the apartment until this particular person, this particular inspector has seen the apartment. And he was like,
oh, well, I know him.
I'll get him down there. And the moment he said, oh, I know him in this,
we knew.
My heart sank, and I was like, oh,
we knew it was over.
We have just been bamboozled by the system.
Mm-hmm.
So I had given the inspector a time of 5:30 so I could get out of work and down there in time to go through the walkthrough with him.
Now, let me interject here,
mm-hmm.
Okay? We had been playing his stupid game. We knew he was a snake. We knew all that stuff. My mother went to the apartment to be there with him because she was able to go into the apartment. Now, has she had effects from it? Yes. But at the time, she was able to go into the apartment.
She was down there early.
Went there to sit and wait for him so that he had an advocate there. So that he was not just there with the landlord and the inspector that the landlord knew. Okay? So she went there. The time was 5:30. My mother was there an hour early. 4:30.
No, okay. She actually got there at 5.
No, she got there at
4:30. 4. I'm sorry, 4 o'clock. She got there at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
It was an hour and a half.
I was saying 5:30 because I thought it was an hour. But he's
okay.
saying it's an hour and a half. Either way, she was there exceptionally early. And at 4:45, here come the landlord and the inspector, and they go up to the apartment together. Why? The appointment time was 5:30.
So her mom calls me and goes, I know you're going to have a hard time getting out, but they have just walked into the apartment.
So my mom goes up there. My mom has no care. She's done with his crap. Goes up there, opens the door, doesn't even knock because it's our apartment still. We're paying rent. She has a key so that if we do something stupid, like lock ourselves out. She opens the door, and the landlord's standing right there. And he goes, can I help you? She's like, you're not supposed to be here. He's like, who are you? And she was like, I'm Summer's mother. And he goes, oh, tries to get all like cordial. Oh, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. Well, they're not here. She's like, yeah, and you're not supposed to be here either.
Sidebar real quick. As a renter, you have the right to know that any landlord or property manager does not have the right to come into your house or your apartment or whatever you're renting from them without 24-hour notice. They have to give you 24-hour notice before they can come into your apartment. I didn't give the landlord permission to go into the apartment because the only person that was supposed to be there was the inspector with me at 5:30.
Yeah, and he was letting the inspector in. He didn't, just because he told the landlord, I will be here at this time, doesn't give the landlord the right to stick that key in the door and wait for him on our couch. Mm-hmm. He is to wait outside.
And he knew that.
And he knows that. But, so my mom is like, and you're the inspector? And she's like, go take care of your job. And he looked at her and he said, well, Mr. Webb isn't here yet. And she's like, he will be, but I am here as him right now. Because if you're starting this meeting early, I will be here. And so then of course the landlord's like trying to get all chummy again. Oh, blah, 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 blah. You know, because of my mom's profession, you know, they know some of the same people. And he's like, oh, you know, this, that, trying. She's like, she looks him dead in the face and goes, don't talk to me. I'm not here for a social visit. So they all waited around silently for about, at this time, it was like...
No, they did the inspection. Because when I got there...
and they waited around, and then she was like, you know what, just go ahead and do it. There's people outside. Just go ahead and do it. Because he'll be here shortly. So they had done the inspection when he was coming in.
I left work the moment her mom called. And I told them, I'm like, that SOB is at my apartment already with the inspector. This is not good. I need to leave.
And they immediately
they were like,
go.
We'll see you tomorrow. Let us know what happened. So I bolted. I drove. I broke some laws getting there.
Laws of science.
And I got there at probably 10 after. And I was coming up the steps as they were done. Mm-hmm. And he was like, and the inspector was like, yeah, there's nothing left. And,
which, sidebar, my mother followed the inspector through the apartment. And in the areas that you could still see the shadow, okay? Go back to the picture that was earlier. The shadow in Ireland's room, she said, are you going to carve out a piece of that wall? Because that is what you were supposed to do to actually physically take it and test it. And he said, oh, I don't need to do that. I can see
that
it's been taken care
of. We got a second opinion. And we were given the name of an environmentalist who is certified by the EPA. That we didn't know that there was a such thing as that. Legal aid didn't tell us. Surprise. And so
We were fortunate enough to find him on our own.
Yeah.
Made an appointment. 2 days later, he was out. And what was scary was I was with my mom. I didn't go in the apartment. Again, I had not been in the apartment since November 23rd. And I have those dates etched in my mind because I talked to so many different lawyers. So, anyway, I was sitting in the car, and he told my mother, you know, when we met him there, because he had to be let in, she is not to go in the apartment. From everything that you've told us, she is not to go in the apartment. And I was like, yes, sir. And I'm sitting in the car, and he says to my mom, I would also rather you not go in the apartment because of 2 reasons. One, if it truly is that bad, then you don't need to be in there either. And 2, it will give a more legit finding if it is only me recording my moves, recording everything, recording the data. No problem. The next thing that happens is he brings out this giant yellow hazmat suit. And if you remember the scene in E.T. when there was those guys, or even think about Back to the Future when Doc is in that yellow hazmat suit and he's like, sounded like Darth Vader, right? That's exactly what this guy was dressed like. Had the air pumping through, had the yellow hazmat suit completely done. He had like the control in his hand that looked like it was the Ghostbusters, whatever it was called, the ectometer or whatever. And I was like, wow. 2 hours we sat out there. And he went out. He went through every inch of that apartment. He took swabs, he did all of that stuff. But he also had what I call the ectometer. And he came out of that apartment. He said, do not step foot back in that apartment. There's so much moisture in that apartment. I can guarantee you that that apartment is in bad shape. He's like, the entire east side is affected. Your bedroom, your back bathroom, the laundry room, the full bath, and your daughter's bedroom. I had no idea about the bathroom, the full bath, but he said it was affected. He said it will take me 24 hours to 48 hours to get you the results of what is in the apartment. So we go home and we wait. In less than 24 hours, I had a report in my hand and a demand telling us, do not go back in that apartment. Do not go anywhere near that apartment. Don't go back in it. Don't go near it. That place is toxic. So, armed with that knowledge, my mother is watching TV a couple days later. And I would say we went there on a Monday, had the report on Tuesday. She was watching TV, I think, on Thursday or Friday. And
it was a Wednesday because the lawyer got back to her. Mm-hmm. Like, they called her, or anyway.
Which is hysterical about what I'm about to tell you. But you know when you're watching daytime TV and you see those Science and Kirk lawyers, or the Johnny Cochran firm, or I don't even know the others, but like those two stand out because you hear them so much. My mom was so fed up, she called them.
She called the Johnny Cochran group.
She called
in DC,
the Johnny Cochran group in DC. And while the Johnny Cochran group could not help because that's not what they dealt with, they dealt with, other things.
Personal injury type stuff.
Which we later found out that's what it was. Along with the slew of other
They said, things. we can't help you. However, we know the exact person who can.
Right.
And they gave us
her number.
Her number.
And so we got in touch with her.
Now, mind you, we had been trying to go to other lawyers since being dropped by Legal Aid.
Yeah.
Every lawyer in this county said, we won't go after him because he's one of us and we have to work with him.
He's a lawyer. Yes, you heard that right. He's a lawyer and did this mess. So nobody else would touch him because he was a lawyer. So they were not going to go against one of their own. Strike again.
So the lawyer who the Cochran Group got us in touch with has been extremely helpful through this whole thing.
Yeah. She was on a lot of big cases for like some hotels that were having problems in Virginia. So she could not help us right at that time. However, she gave us a lot of information to work with and what we had to do, what we needed to do, and all that kind of stuff. So she was able to keep the ball moving.
Now, mind you, all of a sudden, I give a copy of the report to the landlord and say I went and got a second opinion, and this is what the second opinion came back with.
After you had fixed everything.
After you said you had fixed everything, with no proof, mind you, that you had fixed everything, I went and got the name of a real person.
And we paid out of pocket.
We paid out of pocket
$800 to have this guy come in.
to get this report, and this is what the report says. It says the apartment isn't livable. 2 weeks later, no, not even 2 weeks later, later that week, we get a note saying that
they're not going to renew our
They're not
lease.
going to renew our lease in the beginning of March. So we have until the end of February to get our stuff out. However, because we had been such
great
tenants that if we moved out before the end of January, they would
give our security deposit back, which, by the way, still has to come back. That's another thing as a renter. Just so you know, they either have to give you an itemized list of what they have taken, of what is purchased with receipts, an itemized list of what is deducted from your security deposit, plus
wear and tear does not count. If
Right.
you have lived there
for more than 5 years.
for more than it was
more than 3
3 in
years.
Maryland. It
That's
probably
right.
changes per state, but in Maryland, if you live in a place for longer than 3 years, they have no right to say that any damage done to the carpet can be taken out
Carpet,
of
appliances,
Yeah.
any of that.
it's normal wear and tear. Also,
And, oh, by the way,
also in the state of Maryland, they have to give you back a certain percentage of what you've paid over the years after 3.5 years.
yeah. So what that means is there is interest, okay, that builds on what you pay every month. So they told us it was anywhere from 3 to 5%.
Depending on what state.
Right.
In Maryland, it was 4.5.
Yeah.
Quarter,
So
some
not
weird
only were
number.
we supposed to get our security deposit back, we were supposed to also get this interest. And, oh, by the way, all of the rent we had paid for the months that we were out, which accumulated to this. 3 months out.
Because we weren't supposed to be paying rent. We were supposed to be paying into
Escrow.
We didn't know that. So we get this letter saying that, we've decided not to renew your lease, even though you've been really good tenants. We moved we didn't know what to do. We're like, we can't move this stuff out. We don't have any place to put it.
I can't go in and help.
How are we supposed to move out? How are we supposed to move out? So the guy who did the EPA testing said, first, this is BS.
Yeah.
2, these are the items you can't keep.
Yeah. Which included anything that was,
It was actually-
material,
yeah.
cloth, anything.
Paper.
Okay, let's just break it down. You can keep anything that was treated wood or metal. The only things in our house that were treated wood or metal.
It was our bed frame,
Our bed frame,
which was metal.
was metal, and a hope chest. There is a curio cabinet over there, which you guys have seen multiple times, that we were told was treated wood. I still am not comfortable with it, but it was cleaned by the way that we were told by this company called DuraClean.
DuraClean, bless them. They were we called around to different places that did mold cleaning. And
we couldn't afford to lose all our stuff.
Yeah. So DuraClean said, "Listen, we're going to come in and we're going to make 2 piles. We're going to make one pile of the stuff you can keep that we can clean, and the other pile of stuff that you are going to have to get rid of.
Right.
One, it is going to emotionally destroy you to see the size of the pile of the stuff you're going to have to get rid of.
And it did.
But we're going to save you a ton of money. This is what you can keep." And he told me basically,
anything that was treated.
and that's who told us the treated or metal. Everything else has to go. And I'm like, everything else? And he's like, books, photos, even if they were on the wall, even if they were behind glass, especially if it was on the walls. Clothing, you can save clothing if you wash it a particular way, which we did. We did a lot of that. However, most of the clothing that we washed a particular way, because the wash cycle process is so damaging, it literally damaged the clothes, and after like 6 months of doing it, they had holes in it and stuff like that.
We lost everything. We lost everything.
Her baby book.
It's gone. Pictures of her. We can never recoup.
And a lot of people say, "Oh, well, you still have the memories of that." Guess what?
We don't.
The mold. We have short term. We have partial long term memory loss.
And again, that's in the stages, and we'll tell you about that in a minute. But we lost everything.
We lost everything.
She lost all of her books. She lost all of her stuffed animals. Anything that belonged to her was gone. The only things that could be salvaged was her plastic toys. That was it. Her mattress. And we had just gotten her a new mattress. And we had just redid her room to go to a big girl room. I don't have pictures anymore.
And you may notice, like, when we walk around the house, there aren't a lot of photos on the wall. That's why. We don't have any.
Our entire wedding album, gone. I gave it to him at work to take pictures out of, because there's pictures of my grandma that I can't get back.
And to tell you how bad this stuff was, my parents.
Oh yeah, and it was awesome because we did have an army that did. We put a call out.
And we said we had to move out before the end of the month.
And we had people come out, people we didn't even know, which was very cool. But they came out and they basically packed our whole apartment and
before I could leave the apartment, we set up, like, and this is how we were told how to clean it. Anything that was in, do the back of the house first, and then do the front of the house, because the back of the house is what was affected the most.
And we had to tape it off.
You had a basically a station where you had just the same mixture of stuff that I cleaned the wall with: tea tree oil, hot water, and it had to be hot. Once it started cooling down, we had to warm it up, and the Dawn dish soap. And they would bring out stuff out of the back bedroom, and I would say we had to get rid of that.
Well, he would say they would have to get rid of that, or no, that could stay. And it had to be either bagged a certain way, such as like our clothes, they had to be double bagged.
And they had to mark it that they were clothes.
Right.
I mean, and it wasn't like, well, that's what you do with normal moving. I get that. We couldn't use cardboard boxes.
Because cardboard boxes harbor
the mold.
And we didn't know that. I mean, most people don't know that.
You don't think about those kinds of things. We store stuff all the time. So we could only use plastic bins or trash bags. Anything, and the trash bags, once we got them to where we were washing stuff, we had to get rid of the trash bags.
Right, we had to transfer the clothes to a plastic bin, and then they were brought in to wherever.
We spent a lot of money at laundromats because we were told a very specific way. Take it to the laundromat, use this particular dish soap detergent in your first wash, put it in the second wash, do it with this detergent, and then you can put it through your dryers. Right. We spent a ton of money
just on that. We spent a ton of money hauling things. We had to get a storage unit.
We ended up having to get 2 storage units.
Yeah. One for the big stuff.
And that's just the stuff that we could keep. It wasn't like we got 2 huge storage units.
No,
they were
just the tiny ones.
They were the small ones. We thought because we weren't able to keep a lot of this stuff. We were like, we'll just get one. And then as the first weekend ended, because we did it in 2 weekends, because I couldn't do it during the week because I worked. And by the time I got off of work, I wasn't expecting anyone to come to my apartment that late at night in the neighborhood we lived. Trying to haul stuff out because it was dark still. It was getting darker. It was still dark early and that kind of stuff because it was January. On top of that, we couldn't have the HVAC running because of the risk of it blowing through and mixing up in the air. Right. So the apartment was cold, and for
2 weekends they did this, and they finally got everything out. And the sad thing is we left the apartment in better shape, even though it was still infested with mold, in better shape. Like, we had to throw our vacuum away because we did vacuum the carpets and all of that kind of stuff. Well, not we. I wasn't there. I wasn't allowed. I was just a runner. I wasn't allowed to touch anything, or it was a mess. We lost everything.
You were still super sick then, too.
Yeah, and we lost everything. When I say everything, his dad had to take our couch, and his dad was so frustrated that he took an axe to the couch in their backyard and just tore the heck out of it because that's the only way he could get his frustration out. And it was as bad that people were scared. I found out later, people were seriously scared at how sick I was. I wasn't at the time because I was just I wasn't scared at the time is what I'm trying to say. I was scared. But I wasn't as scared as they were because I was just trying to survive every day. I was trying to breathe. I had this, what do you call it? Like, I had this pain. Like, I can't even explain it. It wasn't like stabbing or anything, but it was just this radiating pain, and come to find out it was inflammation just all through my bronchial areas because of that. And until I was fully out of it and away from every part, and again, we didn't know. We brought clothes in November. We brought some of her stuffed animals, stuff that would be like, what am I thinking? Like,
as we were living at her parents' house, we brought some of those
items there, and we didn't know.
Yeah, we didn't know. So
she was sleeping with it, and she would wake up every morning, and her eyes were red rimmed, or she was still coughing. We brought an air mattress from the apartment, and we're sleeping on it. And finally, after so long, I had to end up going to sleep on the couch at their house, at my parents' house, because of this stuff.
Luckily enough, the cat popped it, and I had to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And that was before we found
Poppy
out.
Had to come live there.
Yeah.
And my parents have 2 dogs. They're
well, at the time they had 1.
Well, right, and she's great. Like, she didn't have a problem.
Thinking about all of, like, when you see your stuff, like, it's stuff. When it's on the shelves, it's, they're books, and the pictures are pictures. But when you're going item through item, going, this is trash now.
When your whole life.
It was really hard. And there were some times where, like, I was just trying to just get it done. And I was moving at such a fast pace, I didn't have time for it to register. But the last day that we were there, I broke down. And it was I had gone, you know, I was just like, all of our things, you know.
And that's why I have such a problem with letting go of anything here now. Or if something here where we live now gets broken, I have a very hard time because it's not just stuff. It's something that's part of our life. And the mold completely took over everything, including our health. And that's what I want to explain to you is there's 4 stages, okay? First stage of mold problems with your health is you have allergy symptoms. You might have a cough. You might have a stuffy nose, which the majority of people in life have with an allergic reaction. Along with the hay fever, even wheezing and you know, that kind of stuff, and asthma.
And that's because mold is everywhere. You know,
yeah.
The normal mold is everywhere. You get it, you know, outside during certain times of year. Right, the stuff that's on the
leaves when they're wet, or you know, you see it.
And some people have that allergy like reaction to that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But then there's a second stage. The second stage is a little bit more intense. There's bloody noses, which he had. We didn't know. We didn't know what to look for. But this lawyer was the one that was like, look, there's 4 stages. Okay.
And I ignored the nosebleeds because I grew up with nosebleeds. Right. I would get them at a drop of a hat. So I figured it was just, you know, I'm just going through this thing where I'm getting nosebleeds again.
Right, and the red rimmed eyes was in stage 1 for Ireland, you know. And then there was the sicknesses, you know, in stage 2, bronchitis and all this stuff, which we didn't think about because we got sick twice a year, Easter and Christmas. Like, it was just something we did. So we didn't get sick very often, so I didn't think about it. And then it was third stage. Third stage was memory loss. Super sicknesses like pneumonia and vomiting and anger issues. He had those. He would go from one extreme to the next. We didn't know why. And he didn't do that before. Like, it was just something that started happening. And I can't even remember all of them. But if you look at stage 3, which is just before stage 4, which includes death, we were all stage 3. Me, more so than anybody, because I harbored a lot of stuff in stage 3, along with stage 2 and stage 1. But all of us were in stage 3. But to see how bad that it can wreck your life. Mold is a nasty thing. And you don't ever get over it.
After moving out, we immediately told the lawyer what had happened. And she said they have the legal right to do that. However, any juror or any judge it's brought in front of will call shenanigans on it. You don't say that you're a really good client or you're a really good tenant
with no reason for this
non-renewal. And decide to do non-renewal because
it doesn't make sense.
Renting is finicky because as long as you have someone in the apartment, you're making money off of them. The moment they're no longer there, you're not guaranteed to be able to bring in a new rental.
Which, by the way, sidebar, just so you know, in the state of Maryland, if you're a renter here, that landlord has to give you back that month's rent if they move somebody in 30 days before the cutoff. Meaning, okay, you paid rent on the 1st, and if they move somebody in by the 10th because you're already gone, you get your rent back. you are owed that rent back.
Mm-hmm.
We have problems. Jesse and I both have asthma. Ireland has asthma. Luckily, because she is a kid,
She'll probably outgrow
she
it.
will probably outgrow it. She is doing better. We've been here about 3 years, where we're at now. And the first year, oh my God, was it rough.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that had to do with not only us, like, going through the process of healing, but also not knowing our bodies yet, because it was a complete 180, 360,
Oh, yeah.
however. It was a complete change of, like, it was a complete change of
Our entire
habits.
body chemistry was
Completely
changed.
changed.
And all the doctors said that. The pulmonologist, the GP, the rheumatologist. I had to go see a rheumatologist, okay? Because, and that was on the list too. Like I said, I don't have, he told you we have long-term memory loss. We also have short-term memory loss, which is on stage 3, I believe. And the long-term memory loss, also swollen lymph nodes. I still have swollen lymph nodes all in my clavicle area. I have been checked out by the rheumatologist, did this gallium scan, which basically they shoot me up with radioactive stuff. So I was glowing for
You were
24
shiny.
hours. And it scans your whole body for tumors. Because we weren't sure. Because that is a side effect from mold, that you can develop lymphoma.
And it's basically because the mold is the mold that we had in our apartment. It's when they talk about the different types of mold,
Yeah, you hear Stachyboris,
which is
which
black
is black mold.
That's when you hear people talk about black mold, you don't hear them talk about it. Oh, I found black mold on my cheese, or I found black
Yeah,
mold on
no.
the sandwich I took out of
Yeah,
the fridge.
the mold that's on your sandwich is a different composure than what is black mold.
Black mold.
Like
Black
it's-
mold is the deadly stuff that they rip apart
Yeah.
buildings to get rid of.
Aspergillus is another one.
And
And that was found. Black mold, aspergillus,
There was a-
caladiasporum,
that was it.
and like other, like there was 15, this is how bad it was. There was 15 different types of mold in our apartment.
And he found it in places we didn't even think about
Right.
looking.
Right. He was the one that found it in the full bath that we had no idea.
In our bedroom closet, which
In
we
our
didn't
bedroom
mention.
closet that we had no idea. But there's 15 different types, and out of those 15, 5 of them were deadly. And just to give you a taste of how bad it was in those 15, our master bedroom had 6,500 spores just from what he caught in his little thing. In Ireland's room, it had over 8,000 plus spores in just what he got. So what he got in his little capture was just that, 8,000 spores. So imagine what was all over her room, all over our room. And he said the only places that were not like infected,
Like heavy
was the kitchen
in the
and the dining
room foyer area.
But the living room was because it's the HVAC, and you had your couch that holds, everything. So that's how bad it was. And we didn't know. We were living there. We had no idea. And what he came back and said was he knew it was there. You know why? Because he had special goggles that he could see.
Bleach, when you use bleach to clean, it's very NCIS type. You use bleach to clean, it leaves a residue, and you can see the residue under certain light conditions. A part of the walkthrough was using different lights in different areas to see the particular mold. He saw where
It had been
parts of the wall that we didn't even mention
no.
to him had been wiped down, and it had been
and
long.
had repainted.
Had been repainted. Yeah,
and then wiped again. Like he could see the layers. So he said flat out that if he had to go to court, he would definitely tell them that this was a known problem and it had been known for years. He didn't rectify himself after. He moved 2 young girls into that apartment within 2 months after we were gone. And do not say, oh, well, in that 2 months he could have, yes, he could have done an amazing thing to that apartment and made it better. But we also still had people who were suffering from the same stuff, who still lived there, who contested to the fact that these 2 girls were getting sick.
We made friends, we make friends easily. We made friends with the woman who lived across the hall from us. We also made friends with an older lady who lived downstairs who died in the apartment downstairs. But the woman who lived across the hallway from us, we ran into while we were at the hospital for, I think I messed my knee up or something. We ran into her. And she was like, oh yeah, they moved in these 2 girls, and we were like, have you moved out? And they were like, no. Well, we just, I've recently moved out, and and we're like, so why are you here then? Why are you at the hospital? And she's like, I've had this, almost like I've had the flu for a couple of months and I just can't shake. And we were like, I got chills now thinking about it. And we're like, okay, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
And
Dawn, you need to be careful.
And she was like, I never even thought about it, because the hallway always smelled musty,
right,
and that's one of the biggest signs, not just of mildew but of mold, that musty smell. Musty. And she said the girls that had moved into our apartment were always getting sick and were always complaining about feeling down, and they had the flu, and so they haven't done anything to those apartments.
He didn't fix it. So now here we are 3 years later. We are better. We still have problems.
The memory issues.
Well, yeah. Jesse and I will always have asthma.
The asthma.
We will never get rid of it. It's because we're older. I mean, we're adults. And I'm not saying we're older, and I use adults loosely.
I'm not an adult. I'm just older.
Yeah, I'm not adulting today. But we are older than a kid who has the ability to bounce back. And, the pulmonologist and everybody, they said,
you'll never be the same. You'll never be at 100% like you were before.
No. And so we have the memory problems. We have asthma. I still have the swollen lymph nodes. Jesse still has swollen lymph nodes.
Mine will swell up every once in a while.
Yeah. I have one that is constantly right here. You can see me moving it around right there. Constantly. They're here. They're behind our ears. My spleen, which, just so you know, medically speaking, your spleen is a giant lymph node. But my spleen will off and on swell up. Our blood work will always show a form of inflammation. Ireland has inflammation in her blood work. As we said, the first year was rough. We actually had to have nebulizers because of it. It was bad. We would leave the area and we would do good. And then we would come home. And I mean, this area is swamp. It's a swampland. I mean, we're by water, and it's just what it is. But we would come back into the area, and because we were so sensitive now, it would hit us. We'd have to do nebulizers or have an inhaler on us constantly. The summertime was rough. The humidity would jack us. Going from cold to hot or hot to cold would jack us. I mean, anything would jack us. And so over the last 3 years, we've gotten better. I'm happy to say that we've only had to use the inhaler once this summer.
Yeah. Which
is amazing, considering.
And that goes along a lot with we know what to expect, and we know how our bodies are going to react. But we also have recovered a little bit. We've recovered a lot. You're not laying on the couch.
No.
Every single day.
No.
Half dead.
Yeah, no. Poppy's doing better. She doesn't have as many asthmatic episodes. She does when the humidity flares up. But I mean, there's so much that we have to take various vitamins now. We have to take a constant I have to have a plethora of different medications to help me, or vitamins to help me. We have to have a dehumidifier in the house because we have to keep it at a specific humidity in the house. And that's probably why I'm having a hard time breathing right now. Because
it's getting up to 50.
It's getting up to 50%.
We can tell when it gets up to a certain...
Right. We have it off because it's insanely loud.
It's loud. And you've probably heard it in videos going, what is that noise?
Yeah.
Why don't they turn whatever that is off? We can't.
Yeah, we have to leave it running. Even in the winter, we have to leave it running.
If you've ever seen any of the videos that are on my channel when I'm trying to record, I'll sometimes go to the other room. But if I ever record in here, you can hear that running.
Yeah, we have to have that, but then we also have to have a fan running to keep the circulation going. We have to arm Ireland before she goes to school. If it's under 40 degrees, she cannot, like when she's now transferring into middle school, but when she had recess, she was not allowed to go outside if it was under 40 degrees. You know, all this stuff, and constant doctor bills, constant, you know, I will probably go into getting pneumonia. I will have to go on Augmentin. That is the one regimen that they have found works for me. It's a high duty drug, but it kills it. And I'm more susceptible to getting pneumonia from now on. He can get bronchitis like that. Ireland, same thing. She can get bronchitis, drop of a hat. And it's just because our lungs are damaged. Our bronchial areas up here, which by the way look like this, just so you know. I didn't know that, but they're like fingers. They're damaged. And so that's our life. And you're not crazy, okay? If you feel this way and you think something's wrong, you're not crazy.
The one thing we've learned through this whole thing is, I mean, other than all the legal stuff, but the one physical thing that we've learned is your body is very attuned to itself. Yeah. It knows when everything is okay, and it knows when things are not right. And when your body is telling you things are not right, no matter what the doctors are telling you, then your body's not right.
Yeah, and you listen, and you keep fighting it, and you find the doctors that will listen. And mold is so still unknown in the medical realm, and our GP has told us that, our pulmonologist has told us that, the rheumatologist has told me that. It's so still unrecognized. They're getting farther, they are, but they're not there yet. But it's so unrecognized that they don't necessarily know how to treat it. So while I have gone through one antifungal treatment because I was the one that was affected the most, and that's just because I was there. So if you look at the people who were affected the most, it was me, and then it was Ireland, and then it was Jesse. Mm-hmm. And that's only because Jesse left to go to work. So he was out of there for 8 hours. But Ireland, we were there from the time that Ireland was 3 years old. Mm-hmm. So we were home. And then she started preschool. And then she started elementary school. So we were there a lot. But you're not crazy. If you start feeling funky and it's not shaking, go. Go talk to a doctor. Have your blood work drawn. Because if it is at the toxicity level that it needs to be to show in the blood, it'll show. And unfortunately, I will tell you, your immune system will be compromised pretty much forever. You'll be more susceptible to a lot of stuff. You'll have to be watched. And you will have to see different doctors. I was terrified of going to a pulmonologist because I didn't know what that meant. My GP was supposed to fix me, and that was it. But he couldn't. So he sent me to a pulmonologist. I was terrified. But that pulmonologist, the first one sucked. But then we found one low. Then we found one that was amazing. And then she left, but we found her again. So we will stalk her to where she's at because she does know something about it. You have to find the doctors. It'll take work, but you have to find the doctors who will listen. So can you survive mold? Yes, as long as it's caught. The moral of the story in all of this is you're not crazy. You can survive mold. It will wreck you to your core, but you can survive it. And you have to be willing to fight. And fight hard. And find the people that will help you fight. So, we're here today. Because we survived mold. It sounds like a crazy story.
And if you think you're in a situation where this may be applicable to you, feel free to message us.
Oh yeah.
Here on YouTube or our Facebook.
We're not lawyers. We're not the end all.
We're not EPA people, but we can tell you.
Direct you.
Yeah, we can tell you. Okay, this is what you need to do, and this is who you need to go talk to.
Yeah.
And these people will be your best bet to help.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have crossed the threshold of what do they call it?
The time frame. There is there's
a statute of limitations.
Yeah.
If you're in an area where you feel like locally that the doctors are just kind of pushing you off to the side,
or the lawyers, or the people that are supposed to be helping you,
or the people that are supposed to be helping you, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
You have that right.
Yeah.
To go out of your area. We, our lawyer is based in Virginia. Her practice is in Virginia. We had to go out of the area to seek, not just like out of the county, or even like out of the county, because we went out of the county before we found our current lawyer.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, he's a lawyer in the area. We're not going to do anything to him. It was, and a lot of people were like, well, why couldn't you, I'm going down rabbit holes, I'm so sorry. Why couldn't you, go after him sooner? 3 years is a really long time.
Takes that.
Legally speaking, we spent a lot of time jumping through loopholes in this area, because we would have meetings with lawyers, and they would then afterwards,
we'll get back to you,
and we would wait, and then we would finally call them and go, we've waited X amount of days, what's your, are you going to help us or not? Oh, well, he's a lawyer in this area, and we feel uncomfortable about going after him. Why couldn't you not have told me that in person? It's past the statute of limitations because mold.
It's a 3-year statute of limitations.
It's
However,
3 years.
We do have a loophole. Thank God, like I said, that this woman was put in our life, because we do have Ireland. And until she turns 21, not 18, 21.
She can go after.
She can go after him.
After the landlord.
And they will attach everything. Not just her stuff, her medical stuff, but her household. Because she lived there. And that was her stuff. So, are we still in process? Yes, we are. But we have to play the game before we can win. So that's our story.
Yeah.
We survived mold.
You can too.
We hope you can too. But you gotta listen to yourself. Listen to your body. Listen to what's being shown in front of you and also behind the scenes. And know that you are not alone as you feel throughout this whole thing. You're not nuts. I can't say that enough, because we did think that we were nuts. We thought that we were just, oh, well, you're just sick. Oh, well, you're just, you'll get over it. You'll get over it. And, we thought we were nuts because nobody would help us. But sometimes you have to go out of the area that you're in to get the help. So maybe that'll give you some insight to why we do some of the things we do, and why we're so weird about some of the things that we do, or get attached to some of the things that we get attached to. But we also hope that this helps somebody somewhere, or helps get the word out about mold and how bad it really is. So, we'll see you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.